Welcome back to Switzer on Australia's Business Channel. The consumer staples sector is experiencing many headwinds right now on the back of increased competition and a terrible performance from Woolworths. The Woolies share price is down almost 30% from its recent highs, and the CEO has stepped down. So is it a buy, or is there more pain to come? I'm now joined by Paul Rickard on my left from the Switzer Super Report to get his views on the market and the consumer staples sector. But wait, there's more. As the Greek deadline looms, we've got a very special guest joining us on location in Greece to give us the inside word on the Grexit and what is happening on global markets. He is the one, the only Peter Switzer from Lemnos on Skype. Peter, welcome to Switzer.
How are you, Marty? How are you, Paul?
I'm great, thanks, Peter.
Very, very well indeed. I'm not seeing a heap of sun there, mate.
No, it's actually the first day we haven't had sun, and I got to say I'm burnt to a crisp, so I need a day off anyway.
Good to hear. So, talk us through what's going on in Greece at the moment, mate. What's the attitude of the locals towards the Grexit and the possibilities of dusting off those drachmas?
What's interesting in Athens, I think the mood is very worried. I know a few public servants I talk to, that they don't like the austerity and the implications it's meant for their jobs and the pay that they're taking home. I think leaving the Eurozone would be a catastrophe. And I think, there's, like, for example, in Athens, unemployment in this place is now 26%. And there are suicides. There are shopping malls in Athens that are totally closed down because the small businesses were paying the rents no longer could generate enough income to pay rent. So Athens, I think, is really in trouble. The islands are different. One thing I didn't know before I came in is that the islands have an exemption from the VAT. So some of the wonderful meals we're having at night don't come with the VAT, and there was a special exemption that the government made to the island economies, and it's one of the things that the EU and the IMF want the Greeks to change. They don't think that the islands should have those exemptions. So on the islands, you don't feel any negativity. Everyone seems relaxed. In fact, I picked up a wonderful T-shirt the other day, which pretty well summed up what the islands think of islands. If you can read it, mate, and Paul.
Bit higher.
A bit higher.
Yeah.
It says, Great crisis, no job, no money, no problem.
Peter, there's a meeting Peter, there's a meeting of the Eurozone leaders tonight. Now, today, your time. Is that just going to be another one of these meetings that's just going to sort of come to an end and we'll be sitting here tomorrow saying the crisis continues? Yeah,
that's an extreme possibility, Paul. But I've got to say, Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, really put the acid on the Greeks over the weekend. And you've got to remember that there's been an enormous run on bank deposits in Greece, and there were queues outside banks in Athens. I actually rushed outside. So there are.
So we're struggling to hear Peter at the moment, and hopefully that's just a broadband connection. He could come back, but so the big meeting is tonight, or one of the big meetings, with a week to go before June 30. From the reports coming out today, it looks like the Greeks could be coming to the party and accepting some of their medicine, Paul?
Yeah, I think there was a report, Marty, that there was some new deal on the table, details.
We've lost Peter Switzer, it seems.
Not disclosed. He's going to go back to the sun and surf. Well, I'm not sure if there's surf on Lemnos, but I think there's sun and everything else.
Yeah, half his luck.
Half his luck. But, look, we'll wait and see what happens here. I mean, my guess is that this will run right to the wire of 30th of June. And even if it does go to the 30th of June, there's no guarantee that they won't just roll it over again and keep the whole discussion going. So we could be talking about Grexit, I think, for some weeks, if not months. But
now, I've just heard we've got Peter Switzer back on air, so we'll throw to him, as it is his TV show. Peter, back to you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I sure can, Mark.
Excellent.
Can you hear me?
You plugged your broadband in?
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
The question you asked was, what about this meeting today? I think the pressure is on the Greeks. They actually have put new proposals in.
Yep.
They haven't been revealed at this point in time. And I think it'd be fairly serious if they don't come up with something. Because, as I say, Merkel and a number of the other heavies in the EU are set up with the Greeks. You can tell that. The interesting play of the weekend was the introduction of Putin and Russia into the mix. They've agreed to do a natural gas pipeline with the Greeks, which will help them increase their GDP and also give them supply of energy. But the interesting thing is, the suggestion was that the Prime Minister of Greece didn't ask for any bailout money. But if there's 2 weeks to go, who knows? The Russians could come in to try and buy themselves an ally at a time when most countries in Europe, really pretty well are fed up with the Russians as well. So it could be a very interesting time.
So if we get nowhere, Pete, and the Greeks do a Grexit, how do you think markets will react to this?
Well, you got to remember they're only about 0.3% of GDP of the world and 2% of the Eurozone. They shouldn't mean that much. But the bottom line is that because they're going to spook a lot of financial markets, there could be a real negative response in the short term.
Now, moving along on to some local news, which I want to pull Paul on. I talked to Paul about. No doubt you'd be across it as well, Pete. Woolworths, obviously the CEO, Grant O'Brien, stepped down last week.
I think he fell on his sword is probably the...
Fell on his sword. Nice way to go. What's your view on the consumer staples sector at the moment, Paul? And particularly, what's your view on Woolworths? When do you think it's a buy?
Well, I think all the consumer staples, Woolworths and Wesfarmers through Coles and even IAG to a certain extent are doing it tough. And look, the main driver of toughness is whether, what seems to be happening here in Australia. We're following the UK example, what happened to Tesco's and Sainsbury's and the others. And it's really this extra competition that's coming in from offshore. So we've had Aldi's really starting to have a lot of traction. They've just announced a big expansion plan in South Australia and WA. Costco's starting to make a bit of noise. We've had another one, I think it's another German group rumoured to be setting up shop here. So, look, the fear the market has is in the UK, the prices of Tesco and Sainsbury halved over the period, largely due to foreign competition. That's the fear the market's got here, and we've seen that particularly with Woolworths. And I think the share price, we'll have to look at a graph, it's off by about 30% this year. The other problem that Woolworths has, Marty, is a couple of sort of unique factors. First of all, it's losing to Coles, and it's I think it's been about 15 or 16 now consecutive quarters that Coles has been beating in the so-called sales war. Yeah. So market share is shifting to Coles away from Woolworths. The Big W division's got all sorts of problems. Sales down there were down, I think, 12.5% over the last quarter compared to the same period last year. And the whole thing with Masters and the home improvement division, which is still sort of now at Masters 2.0 or 3.0, they're rolling out yet another store format. And there's no signs of that part of the group making profits. So that's why the share price is down as far as it is. Yeah. The question is there value yet around $26.80? The yield's up to almost 5% now. I think there's still some downside. My guess is that it's probably a little bit early to go bargain hunting on Woolworths. There's got to be a risk that...
you need to wait for a new CEO to come in, announce a new plan, then before you determine whether or not it's worth
they've made a few changes. They put Brad Bernucci in to run supermarkets. I think he's a good appointment, but you've got to think a new CEO probably won't be on board till November or December at the earliest. He or she will come in, have a look around, make another set of changes. This could be going on for another sort of 9 to 12 months before you really see a decent plan out of Woolworths.
So there could be some more pain to come, you're saying. I just want to go back to you, Pete. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Now, last week, one of your favourite investors, Warren Buffett, obviously took a stake in IAG, and whilst a lot of people in the industry have been sceptical about it and said that Buffett only does a deal to benefit Buffett, and that could be true, I guess the positive news to come out of that, which no doubt I'm sure you would have mentioned if you were hosting this show, was that Buffett's at least interested in investing in Australia. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. But IAG clearly is not going to be a gut investment for Buffett. So that's one thing I would say. And secondly, he made the reference that he is prowling around for other assets. And, a lot of Australian assets, our stock market hasn't really taken off. We know we haven't passed our old all-time high. So it makes sense that there's some quality companies that really, could be valued. And let's go back to Woolworths, Marty. That's the kind of company that could easily be picked up by a foreign marauder, because even if you look at the impact of Costco and Aldi and the rivalry in the British setting, and Tesco share price really collapsed a bit like Woolworths, it eventually rebounded. Not to where it was, but there was a nice rebound for people who bought at the bottom. And I think Paul's right on Woolworths. There's probably a little bit more further to go. But I would be looking, if I saw Woolworths around 25, 24, I think a lot of people would rush in purely on the dividend play. And it still is a very good brand. Dan Murphy's absolutely terrific brand. And I think the Woolworths supermarket doesn't have to do much to compete. One final thing. Woolworths, I think, has had a problem with its leadership, and that's why Grant O'Brien's gone. On the flip side, Wesfarmers and Coles have had brilliant leadership with Richard Goyder that partly explains why that company's done better than Woolworths.
Before we go, Pete, you were supposed to get an interview with the Greek finance minister. What happened there, mate?
Well, Yanis Varoufakis is very busy. Look, even one day before I had to leave Athens, I still thought I was a chance. But let's face it, it's a very, very important thing. He actually is in trouble with a lot of his MPs because he's sort of gone soft on the left-wing view and what they're putting to the EU and the Troika. And I think he's getting a bit of trouble. He actually said this Greek tragedy has to end, and I hope it's a happy ending. I think he's getting a bit despondent about the negotiations. I kept my fingers crossed that something good comes today.
Before we go, Pete, Janine Peretz also asked, will you dial into her show? She misses you and is very keen to see you.
Yeah, okay.
Why did you come back
promise
to work?
her I will.
Enjoy the rest of your trip. Say hi to Mum. See you, Pete.
Okay, mate. See ya.
See ya.
Paul.
After the break, we'll hear from the CEO of consumer product group Shriro, as well as celebrity agent Nick Fordham. Don't go away.